Hey guys, you know what's funny? For all my life, practically even when I was young, I was quite lucky. I never got sick. I never had any issues health-wise, and even through my 20s and more or less late 20s before I hit 30, I felt invincible and I never got anything. I was always lucky that way. I was really sick, rarely ever was at the doctor's or the hospital. And people would sort of say, well, when you hit 30, health starts to go down and it's all downhill from here. And they say that at the end, you kind of go, well, literally when I turned 30, it was all downhill. I got every sick under the sun, probably because I have 2 children now. We're going into nursery and school, and they were coming back with everything, the plague, leprosy, and you were getting everything. But there comes a point in your life of your age that, it happens to everyone, you will need medical attention at some point. Or you will get something that is quite minor or major enough that you may need medical intervention for. And as a channel here that's so obsessed and preaches around good health and nutrition, adapting a strong routine to avoid all these things, the inevitable will always happen. Well, that happened to me back in September, only about 3 months ago. And I was, about 2 months ago actually at this point. And I felt healthy enough. I was going about my day, and all of a sudden, within a span of 2 days, everything went completely downhill, and I ended up having to go in for what would be considered major surgery. So this is my story and advice and how I've managed to get back to training more or less at the same level I was at prior to this, and there's some tips and advice along the way. Now, I'm also very aware that everyone's circumstances, everyone's medical history and medical conditions are very different. I understand that, and I'm by no means here a doctor. I barely have a GCSE, let alone a doctorate degree. And as always, if you do like the video, please do like and subscribe, because I am needy, desperate, and thriving for attention. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go. So anyway, around September, so this would have been about 8 weeks, 7 weeks ago now that I've been back to my self. I was feeling a tummy ache. I woke up on the Sunday with, that feeling you get where your appetite's just gone and you feel like you're gonna throw up, but you don't. That. And I barely was able to finish my morning shake that I usually take every morning. Did the normal routine. I was quite busy that day. Was in soft play with the kids and still not feeling great. Couldn't really finish my dinner or anything that night. Next day I woke up and I was walking my wee man to school, and it felt like above my right leg there was like something inside me, and every time I lifted my leg up it was in pain. Again, I was sick off food. The next day after that, same thing, only I was having fevers at this point, and I was meant to be working from home. During lunchtime I had to lie down and go to sleep. I was shivering, fever. I'm not the type of guy to go to hospitals, but I ended up, my partner and my brother both said to me going, oh, this sounds like appendicitis. And we had a friend in the gym that almost died because his burst actually, and he was out of the gym for about 5-6 months. He didn't go back. So it was in the back of obviously my brother's head and stuff, and he was like, go. So I phoned the doctors at the hospital and gave the symptoms, because at this point I had a fever. I just wanted to see if there was any antibiotics I could take to get it over with. And he asked me to come down, did tests. They didn't feel it like it was normal appendicitis. Didn't seem like a classic case. They would press my stomach. It's the kind of case of, is this sore? No. Is that sore? Is this sore? Oh, yeah, it's fucking sore. So anyway, he sent me over to the ED, waited there like a prick for 7-8 hours. Did all the tests, every doctor. It doesn't seem like a classic case. So sent me in a CT scan, which I don't know if you've ever been in one of those massive tubes, but they inject you with like ink that goes up the veins. While you're in it, it feels like you've pissed yourself, and that's what the nurse said to me. I feel like you soiled yourself, but you haven't. So I'm this thing, and I'm going, oh, have I actually pissed myself? Did scans, and then it turned out that yes, my appendix needed surgery and taken away, which was 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. They were like, he's taken out the next morning basically, so sign your life away, blah blah blah. So waited for the surgery. Surgery went over, went back to bed. About 4 hours after surgery, I was actually back on my feet. I actually asked the nurse, can I stand up or try to? And they said no, and then they went back and said, well, they said if you want to try. So I got them to close the curtains, and as you can see in the video, I stood up and about to get a few feet. And then an hour after that, when I had visitors, walked around a wee bit of the ward, and every day I kept doing more. Because I'm a firm believer, people talk about rest, and that is true, but again, the human body is capable of amazing things. And I think that you shouldn't take that for granted. And if you can do things, it may be hard, try and do it. Your body gets worse when you're sitting stationary all the time, I find. If you're constantly someone that's sitting stationary, not moving the joints, the body's made to move. And even when you get an injury, it's fantastic at repairing. Yes, you do need a lot to recover, but that doesn't mean sitting like in a vegetative state for weeks on end. So after that, I found out the next morning from the surgeon that the appendix had actually burst at the tip, and the surgeon said it was actually quite a bad one, and I needed to stay in. So I ended up having to stay in for like 4 or 5 days because my blood was infected. Eventually got out, and about, I'd say, 8 days after major surgery, I was back to the gym. Notable issues with, because my core couldn't contract right, and the bracing felt off every time I inhaled oxygen. It felt like, because of the 3 holes in my stomach, I felt like someone had got a balloon and poked 3 holes, and it was letting oxygen out. So we would brace, look down, and there was like leaking air. That's what it felt like anyway. I just couldn't brace properly. So did a lat pull down, did a few back stuff, got in, and then I'd say about 10 days later I was back to squatting 60 kilo. 5 days after that, stuck 100 kilo on my back, 120, 100, and as of now, about 6 weeks after, I was back to about 140 kilo with no belt on me and no knee straps. So I counted that as success. If I can squat 3 plates again with no lifting aids, no belt, no knee straps, considering I just had major surgery, I count that as a win. And more or less everything went back to normal. Bench was back up to about 125 reps, 125 reps. Squat up to about 155 kilo now for about 7 reps with no belt, no straps. I can stiff deadlift about 190 kilo with no belt now. So there's a lot of things that I can do. Now, I know people's had this before and they haven't gone back to the gym for 4 or 5 months. I wasn't going to give that an option because 4 or 5 months is a massive time of no progress. Especially I plan to compete next year. That wasn't an option. And also we are expecting to have a child soon. My woman is heavily pregnant. I wasn't about to keel over and be some sort of dead weight around the house, not being able to do anything. So what's the point of this? Well, I didn't get any advice of if I should be training after the gym, after the surgery, or what I should be when I'm going home. Now, online, or the general advice is, 8-10 weeks, even more months, you won't be going back until you're fully recovered. And people would have said, well, it's quite risky after 6 days or so, because your risk of a hernia is increased. Now, I've been training, I know my body quite well for 9-10 years, and I knew what sensible approach to take. Medical professionals, as they obviously know more than me, but I do think they overplay things sometimes. So when something happens, it's like, oh, don't touch any lifting, or not even a small weight for 30 days or for 6 weeks. The body is capable of a lot more than that, and we've evolved to be injured in the wild and still get back on our feet days later to fight another day. I think that people, when they get this kind of advice, just because someone comes from an authoritative level, you know your body better than anyone else, and I know my body better than anyone else. I know what it's capable of, and I know how far I can reach to the limits. I wasn't going to be doing anything stupid like a ridiculous kind of like, 6 days after, putting a ridiculous load on my back and blowing my stomach out. I knew that wasn't going to be the case, but I slowly drip fed my potential week in, week out to get back up to the level quite swiftly again. I know my body better than anyone else, better than a medical professional. I know for most people go, well, you're not a scientist, you're not a doctor, but I know my body better than them. That's the point. And that's why I went back so swiftly. And I felt great for it. And you know what? I'm glad I did. If I had waited at this point to go back, my progress would have been really back down, and I would have been in a rut or a routine at that point would have of just pure laziness. I wouldn't have been doing anything. So the point of the video is, and obviously people go through a lot worse things than this, but this is considered major surgery. Don't underestimate your body, and don't roll over so easy just because you got a small injury. There's always other things you can do. If you get a broken arm, there's always activities you can still do. You can go out lots of walking, you can do some leg stuff. There's always things you can adapt. Imagine that if you're in the wild and you needed every day to provide and hunt and get food for your family, and you got injured one day. You're just gonna roll over and say, oh, well, tough, I'm injured. You fend for yourselves. You wouldn't. Now you may say, well, the gym's not exactly that. No, it's not, but it's the mentality, right? The mentality that we've lost in society now that people don't want to address and admit that we've lost that touch. But I'm back anyway, more and better. And I think more for it as well. I count this as my one major escape in life. One major hit that I needed to stay out of the hospital from. I mean, I had not even given blood before or had blood drawn from my body, let alone having, 68 EVs in my fucking arm. IVs, whatever you call them. EVs, that'd be like an electric karma arm. Charged by a Hyundai here and a Tesla here. But if you liked the video, please do like and subscribe. And if anyone has went through anything similar or going through anything similar, don't hesitate to comment below. And if you want to see my approach back to training or how I did it, let me know. Anyway, pleasure speaking with you as always. Card from New York 10. I'll see you next time.